Hey everybody, Matt with All Involves Adventures, and I am here near Watauga Lake in Elizabethton, spending a few days at the Watauga Dam Campground, which is on the Little Wilbur. I'm not sure if it's Little Wilbur Reservoir or Little Wilbur River. It's a mouthful. I'll have to look it up. It's a little reservoir between Watauga Lake and Watauga River that has a really nice campground on it. It's a TVA site, really well run, really nice facilities, and so far I've really enjoyed the visit. It's a bit windy this week. I think it's interesting though, the weather called for 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, and I bet we've probably had gusts 20 or so. In fact, I had a little mishap with the awning. When I first got here, it was calm. I put the awning out, I went to put it away, and the motor has quit working. Well, let me rephrase that. The motor works, but I think the little screw gear in there is worn because it's not doing anything. And so initially I just lashed it down when the wind got heavy. Later on that afternoon, I decided I really needed to try to get it put up. So I rigged up some ratchet straps and tried to pull it in, and actually was doing really well with it. Got it really close, took the ratchet straps off to push it the rest of the way in, and right about then a gust of wind came along and I've ended up bending one of the arms. So that's going to be an expensive repair. Anyway, that's not the fault of the campground. It is a very nice campground, really pretty area. If you've never had a chance to get up this way, I think everyone should. It's a gorgeous part of the country. We're up here in northeast Tennessee, up near Elizabethton, which is the nearest town. I have Verizon. I have no service at the campground. If I go over the hill to the lake, I do have service. If I go down towards town, I've got service, but right in here at the campground, I have nothing. If you're planning on visiting and you're following your GPS, when you get close to the area, the signs are not very clear and the GPS will get spotty depending on who you're using. Just know that when you go over the bridge, over the Wilbur, you want to take the first right, and that'll take you into the campground. If you go straight, you will go all the way up the mountain to the overlook, and those of you with the RVs, the good news is there is a place to turn around. Trust me, you will get to it eventually. So don't freak out. You're not stuck up there with no way to get turned around. But it's not very. There really isn't a Watauga campground sign down there. It just basically says river activities. There's river activities, and then at the top there's lake activities where the boat ramp to the lake is. So keep that in mind if you plan on visiting. It does have water, does have electric. There are a couple of handicap sites that have sewer, I believe. There is a nice bathhouse, and I'll go over that a little later when I get a chance to use it. Let's see, there is a store on site that's got, a few necessities. It's not a big variety. There is no boat ramp on the site itself to access the Wilbur. The area behind the campground, or behind the campsites, is sloped heavier than others, but I have been able to get my kayak up and down that. There is a recreation area a little further, maybe, I don't know, quarter mile down the road that has an actual ramp if you want to bring a float boat or a powered vessel. I've seen a couple powered vessels, small outboard tiller steer type things. It's relatively shallow on the Wilbur in places, so it would probably help to have a little local knowledge if you're going to get a boat out on it. But it's certainly kayakable. I've seen some stand-up paddle boards out here. Just keep in mind that it's not a very long little reservoir. I think it's only about 1.5 miles long total, so it's certainly one of those you can float around on it pretty much all day. But again, really nice site. When I get up here a little closer, I'll flip the camera around and kind of give you a little tour of where everything is. Please disregard my suction mount there. I left my normal gear at home that makes this a little more of an unimpeded view with the phone, but you get the picture. So we got a nice little drive along the Wilbur. See a float boat out there. Again, most of the sites back up to the water. There's a couple of sites that are off water, but most everything backs up to it. It's in a little bit of almost like a little gorge down through here, so you're surrounded by ridge or ridge line all the way around. The dam power station ahead of us that is blocked off. Obviously you can't go in there. Pretty sharp turn to the right to get in, but there is plenty of space for a bigger rig. There's your trash cans at the top. The camp store will be here on the left. This is where you check in when you arrive. Dump station here to the right. There is no tent camping here. These first couple of spots on the right are handicapped. Camp host here to the right, bathhouse to the right, and camp manager off there to the distance to the right. So a couple spots here on the left on the water, and then this is where the main little avenue is here. So this is site 13 with the site 12. I'm here in site 11. Where the golf cart is site 7. Fairly deep spots if you got a larger rig. That's site 4 there with the Alpine in it. Here we are at the end of the road. This is site 1 straight ahead. Good sized turnaround. That's site 2 on the point there. I will say, if you plan on staying up here, you wanna try to reserve early. It is very popular. Stuff fills up pretty quick, so you don't want to mess around. I want to say they open reservations around December, which I think is when I made my reservations. Bathhouse straight up the hill there with the stairs. And here we are. So I'm gonna close out this video with some parting thoughts. So I've checked out, got the camper hooked up, headed back home. Gotta say, really enjoyed the visit. It's a really nice campground. You know, keeping in mind this is not an RV resort. This is a campground. So it's got what you need. It doesn't have all the other frills, but it's well kept. Bathhouse was nice. So you have men's and women's. Each one has a shower. The men's side had a couple of toilets, a couple of maybe a urinal or 2 urinals and 2 toilets, I guess. Certainly enough for the size of the area. I didn't really ever have to wait in line for anything. Of course, I am an early riser, as you can see, since I'm leaving the campground at about 7:30. So, like I said, the grounds were well kept. The staff was very nice. If you're familiar at all with the TVA owned campgrounds around East Tennessee and some of the other areas, the group that they've got running them, and the name escapes me, I'll put it in the comments. I think they do a really good job managing these sites. I didn't really hear any noise, didn't see any issues. In fact, the only excitement I would say were 2 of my neighbors that, let's say, had a minor dispute over who could fish in what spot, which in the grand scheme of things seemed kind of silly, but hey, you know, not everybody is as laid back, I guess, when they're out camping. Speaking of which, this is bear country, so keep that in mind when you arrive. You don't want to leave food and stuff out. Would not recommend leaving food in your car. I would try to utilize your fridge if at all possible, if you have one. If not, a good strong cooler. I didn't see any bears, but there's certainly a bear sign around the area, and it's enough of a concern. They have signs literally everywhere about bears. Everything's in the rules about bears, so you know, keep that in mind. Lots of ducks, lots of ravens, some geese, the odd squirrel or 2. Pretty typical for this area. But overall, like I said, I enjoyed the visit. I thought it was a nice place, well worth the money. I mean, when you're looking, I think my mind serves me well, is around $40 a night, which is hard to beat on the water in such a nice place. But overall, I would say I would give this a Holland Vols score of a good solid 8.5. Nice level spots, clean facilities, good price, friendly staff, helpful staff. So I don't think you can go wrong there. So if you want to get a visit, hit the link in the comments to their site, and happy camping.